ton parfum, mais pour te dire la vérité, what really turns me on is what you say. Moi j'aime bien le sexe au téléphone. I like it when you talk and when you moan. Ma passion n'existe que dans un coup de fil. Au revoir ma chérie, goodbye, goodbye my thrill. Et ce qui me rend fou, ce n'est pas des bisous. I want to hear you say do me do. Et j'aime bien ton parfum, mais pour te dire la vérité, what really turns me on is what you say. Moi j'aime bien le sexe au téléphone. I like it when you talk and when you moan. Ma passion n'existe que dans un coup de fil. Au revoir ma chérie, goodbye, 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 goodbye my thrill. Call me.
What a funny song. Hello, R users? I usually say internet. Maybe I'll just start saying hello, R users. Hello, R users. My name is John Kulas. I'm a 20-year professor of industrial and organizational psychology, 10-year user of R for normal, boring, statistical applications. But for the majority of that time that I've been using R, I've also been using R to craft projects. So not just do analyses, but talk about the analyses and do literature reviews and write-ups and talk about methodologies, all within R. And so every week I hang out and get together occasionally with some collaborators on these projects. Now tonight, sorry for the spoiler, but tonight it's just going to be me, Diego. Diego's in Cancun, hopefully. That's where he's supposed to be. And I forgot to put out a call. I forgot to put out the invite to everyone else. I don't. My brain has been scattered on things a little bit lately. Maybe it's the weather. I don't know. But anyway, so we get together every week, every Tuesday at 7 o'clock Eastern, for about an hour. Tonight might be a little shorter, just because I kind of have a few things going on, and tonight's topic I don't think will take that long. But so we hang out for an hour and or just make ourselves available if there's anyone out there who's interested in learning how to do what we're doing, which is to craft documents, technical reports, feedback reports, websites, books, PDFs, anything. So craft anything using the R platform. And so we try to make ourselves available if there's people interested in that, but maybe they don't know how to get started, or maybe they're just starting with it, or maybe they've done it for a while but have run into an obstacle. So there's a bunch of resources online that are static where you can go and find tutorials, and AI is becoming increasingly helpful as well. But we wanted to just kind of be here as real people. If there's anyone that comes across this session and has questions, you can ask us and we'll interact with you and we'll try to help you out. So that shared problem solving, I have to do something about that. I don't think about it until we have these sessions, and the slide format that you're looking at right now, I decided a few weeks ago. So we spent a session or two on the creation of brands and making things look consistent with styling that you're interested in. And we created a Pink Panther themed template. And so rather than just kind of doing it and forgetting about it, I decided maybe I'll start using those for these weekly slides. So I'm using the Pink Panther template for this weekly slide. But one of the problems with using these templates that aren't well thought out, well vetted, well kind of tested by Posit, the company that generally we pull these templates from, there's little things that we might come across that need a little tweaking. And so one that I see right here is as I highlight, the highlight background color is actually masking what I'm trying to highlight. So it's doing the opposite of what it's supposed to do. That's obviously not ideal. What you're trying to do shouldn't be opposite of the execution of what you want to do shouldn't be opposite of the intended goal of the thing that you want to do, right? It kind of makes sense. So I'm going to have to tweak that if we hang on to this Pink Panther template, and I think we will. I like this guy down here. It's just kind of hanging out, smoking a cigarette, and saying, get on with it already, will you, Mr. Professor Dude? And so we're here if anyone pops by and has questions about how to use this platform as an authoring platform. But absent these questions, what we've also been doing just to kind of fill time and kill time, I guess, and learn, is we've been checking out features of these authoring platforms. And when what you're looking at right now is a slide presentation that's created via Quarto. Quarto is a authoring platform that we just started using. We're on session 82 now, so it's probably we started it fairly soon after we started these weekly sessions. So I'd say my experience with Quarto is fairly new, but we've built up our skills, I think, quite a bit over the course of these 80 some sessions, primarily because we've forced ourselves to focus on kind of one feature at a time. And that's what we've been doing on these weekly sessions, absent questions. So we've just been looking at one feature at a time and kind of building our skill set that way. And so tonight, what we're going to take a look at is a continuation of, look at that. So the icons are not masking the way that the text is. So again, that's good feedback for me. So in the interceding week, I'll go in and change that and fix that. And maybe I'll bring that up on the recap that we do of these sessions, is I'll show how that fix was made. But the last couple of weeks, we've been playing with AI integration within the IDE that I've been using, which is RStudio. Now next week, I think it's next week, Diego said he was interested in maybe implementing AI within a different IDE. So he'd use probably VS Code, I'm guessing, is what he's going to do. And all of the help that we saw, the majority of the online help that we saw with using the GitHub Copilot AI as kind of a code helper, most of that seems to be tailored toward the VS Code editor, and so that's very popular. My introduction to R was through RStudio, as most social science people, I think that's kind of the route that they tend to take. So social sciences would include economics, psychology, sociology, political science, etc. Our little behavioral and social science world, I think we got a gentle introduction into R through RStudio. People who are coming from more of a hard sciences tradition, or specifically a computer science tradition, they're probably a little more used to VS Code, or people that use a different predominant language. It's probably a better way to put it. So Python users, for example, may be a little more likely to use VS Code. They're coming from probably a Jupyter or maybe Spider, different IDE kind of tradition. Without a co-host here, I end up talking on these like horrible tangents, and nobody's here to kind of knock me and say, "Hey, Kulas, get to the point." So anyway, so tonight what we're going to do is we're going to take our third look at AI integration within this IDE that we are using, which is RStudio. And as kind of a spoiler, I guess, I have not been overwhelmed with my experience using GitHub Copilot as an assistant as I code and as I edit. And again, what I'm what I find it useful for and helpful for is in the bits of code. So the analytical stuff is fine, it's helpful there. But it's really interfering with my ability to write in a normal document sense. And so we'll see that again tonight. But primarily what we're going to do is we're going to I really gotta fix that. Primarily what we're going to do is we're going to load chattr and see if this makes the AI a little more tolerable for me. And so it's just an interface that gives you more of a traditional interaction with the AI engine itself, as opposed to the way that GitHub Copilot currently is being implemented, just kind of out of the box. The way it's implemented is primarily as a kind of autocomplete helper. And so when we get to the recap, we'll talk about that. But let's go ahead and get our transition here to our recap.
Well, our boys have managed to get themselves into double trouble as they dangle from a rope below Mount Flatten, the floating mountain. Not only is a fast plane zooming right at them, but far above, Boris Badenov is preparing to cut the rope, watched closely by his shadowy superior, Mr. Big.
Why are you hesitating, Boris?
Just wondering whether to cut all at once or little by little.
Oh, little by little, to be sure. The fun lasts longer.
So Boris just lightly nicked the outside of the rope, then watched gleefully as the strands broke one by one.
Delightful, isn't it?
Oh, Mr. Big, you really know how to live.
But at the other end of the rope, our heroes had more immediate problems to worry about.
Hey, that plane's getting closer, Rock.
Hang on, Bullwinkle.
And the speeding jet roared by right underneath them.
Now, Diego, if he's here next week, I might have to get a Dragon Ball Z transition. I did look for that. He had alluded to it and mentioned that it may be more relevant for a non-geriatric generation. But I couldn't find it. I think I need his help with that. I don't know Dragon Ball Z, but apparently they have some transition too. Remember last week, kind of thing I'm looking for. So last week, the theme that I have from last week is just tinkering. We just kind of tinkered around a little bit with Copilot, tinkered more than kind of a continuation of what we'd done the previous week. And with any shiny new toy, we were kind of it kind of ended up being, ooh, let's try this, and oh, what about that? And there wasn't a lot of direction to it. Now, one thing that we did was we tried to make copious use of annotations and comments. Comments is probably the proper term here. So within our scripting, you're looking at here is a QMD. And again, I'm not going to be able to highlight line 2. But if we were to actually follow this. Oh, my slide is all messed up because I put too many images on it. But what we tried to do on line 2 was we tried to actually give, I'm sorry, I got to disable that mouse wheel. We tried to actually, we tried to give some context in terms of, I'm going to make everybody so sick. I'm sorry. Let me do this. Let me get kind of a better way to look at this. Which is unfortunate, but one of these weeks, maybe what I can do also is I can play with the auto scroll completion, the horizontal scrolling on the kind of default code chunks that we have. So it's not wanting to do a wrap if something spans multiple lines, as you see on a normal word editor like Notepad here. But what we did was we actually tried to provide some context, and hoping that that context, the way that this autocomplete is supposed to work is the context is supposed to actually, the autocomplete, the AI component of it is actually being somewhat informed by the context of the document that you're doing. Now, this is working fine within code chunks, and it's working fine just as a analysis helper, but as a broader document helper, and again, what we're interested in on these weekly sessions is not only using R as a analytical tool, but using R to author things, to create documents, full documents that have quantitative components to them. It didn't seem to be helpful. So the commenting that we did and played with was not all that helpful. Now I've been using this in my own work as well, kind of offline, not offline, but off the internet, I guess, not on these weekly Tuesday sessions, but just in my normal work. I've left that AI capability enabled. And really, I've found it a lot more annoying and distracting than helpful as I'm trying to write documents. And maybe we'll go back into that tonight if we have a little bit of time, and I can show you what's happening. Some of the kind of anecdotal things that you hear about AIs in terms of making stuff up, or what's the word that they actually use with that? Kind of having creating something that isn't real. So we've seen that in documents that we've created. And one of the contexts within which it was most kind of glaring was hallucinating, I guess is what they call it. But one of the contexts within which it was most glaring was the outline of a paper that we've just started to put together, and the context is several cited articles, blah 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 blah, and then the autocomplete, when we let the AI kind of sit and think for a little bit, kind of took previous paragraphs of this is a literature review kind of stuff, but it made up complete citations, and the citations were devoid, the explanation of them, doggone it, I don't know what's wrong with me, but the explanation and the context for those citations was devoid of any meaning, and the citations themselves, there was nothing, there were no citations. It made up complete complete article titles, made up authors, made up took real journal names, but assigned issue and volume numbers and page numbers that just weren't real. So that's part of the annoyance, I guess. Another part of the annoyance is just kind of is just the practical coding aspect. So stopping your writing just to have a thought. Crying out loud. I don't know what's going on. I swallowed a frog, I think. It must be something about this time of day. So the frog in my throat tends to hit right around 6 o'clock Central. I know I say 7 o'clock Eastern because most of the collaborators that I have are still on the Eastern time zone. I used to be on this Eastern time zone. 2 times in my life I was on the Eastern time zone. First time I was really kind of disoriented by it, and I was disoriented by it oddly with NFL games. Maybe not oddly, but it was all TV oriented. So it was NFL games, and it was primetime TV coming on. Not that I watch primetime shows, but I watch shows prior to primetime. I like reruns of things like Gilligan's Island and Hogan's Heroes and all these old 1960s sitcoms. Beverly Hillbillies. Oh, I love the Beverly Hillbillies. But those would end at a different time. So anyway, in the most recent time that I was out there, I wasn't much of a TV watcher at that time, so that didn't throw me. So now it seems more normal. So anyway, so although I say 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock Eastern, I'm on the Central time zone. So something about this time of day is not well aligned with whatever the heck's going on with my voice here. So the scripting interface, I don't, again, I'll give it some more time, but I'm not finding it helpful for the way that I like to craft documents. And again, documents is a very general term here. It could be a PDF report, it could be a technical report, it could be a feedback report, it could be a book. I'm working on a couple of different books that are all authored through this same process that we've been talking about every week. It could be a website. I have a website that I'm working on as well. Anything that we've been doing, slides, it can be slides. Crafting these through scripting that AI enabling the Copilot integration within the script editor itself, I'm finding not helpful. So I'm not I'm not a huge proponent yet. I'll keep doing it because I understand that it has power and it has utility, and maybe it's just a old stubborn guy thing. So I'll keep doing it, and I'll give more updates. I'll probably wait to give another formal update until a month or so in. So we'll let Diego drive a couple of these because I think he's a lot more kind of open-minded to this stuff and interested in it. Now, there's another interface as well that we played with last week, and this one, there's a hyperlink here, so if you want to follow it, you can. This one I'm a little more comfortable with because it's the just interface itself is more consistent with the way that probably many of you and many of us are currently interacting with AIs, and that's just a Q&A back and forth kind of hey, I have this question. Now, what we didn't play with so much last week was there's different models that we can actually play with. So there's actually different engines, and my access to Copilot is through their free educator option. And so I believe that the models that I have access to are their kind of entry level. So you can get even, yeah, it even says here upgrade to get access to more models and higher limits. The limits I don't really see myself butting into, but there's monthly caps on the number of queries that you can have. I don't recall exactly what those are, but I haven't run into them yet. One of the things that I haven't been using this to its full optimization, I know for a fact, and I haven't looked at any tutorials. I've just kind of been relying on my former students who, great thing about being a professor with stuff like this is the students are always kind of on top of things to the point of at least being interested in it. And so they can show you stuff and they can give you little hints. So I've still been kind of relying on students to just say, hey, Kulas, you're supposed to do this. And I still interact with enough students where I get a little bit of that. So the nice thing that we didn't talk about last week was that on the left here, you'll see I'm signed in. So this is my GitHub access point, and I'm within the Copilot portion of GitHub for me right now. But what it has here on the left in the sidebar is it has a log of the previous questions that I've had. Now I like this. I could see myself wanting to come back to this. And you can see, what did I ask? Oh, I asked about chattr. That wasn't very helpful. We're going to do that in just a second here. But last week we went through the recommended online ways of accessing chattr through RStudio, and it turns out in the interceding week I've kind of looked into things, and it turns out that the online help pages right now are a little out of date with some of the kind of under the hood tweaking that they've had to do with chattr. So I found a way around it, but the AI was not helpful last week in that regard. The good old kind of resources available online ended up, yes, they were helpful. But I do like that they have a record of what we've actually previously asked. I don't have anything to ask it right now, so I don't see any need to. Kind of waste one of my prompts here, unless someone pops a comment and wants me to ask something. I can certainly do that. But so that's a different option in using GitHub Copilot to help with coding stuff. So I'm just as a for example, I probably could say, hey, I don't have to say hey, do I? Hey, can you help craft a histogram of palm or penguin? And sometimes the tick marks, I think, are helpful for these AI. I've been using them to kind of stress that this is an object or a package, specifically to separate it from the rest of the text or the tokenized kind of elements. Hey, can you help craft a histogram of Power Penguin data using GG using ggplot within R? Not craft. Can you help? Can you provide code that will create, and it should give us some code. So we could go ahead and copy that, and we can paste that into, we can put it as a slide in this week's slide deck. We'll call it, see, here's some of the autocomplete that it's giving me, and I'm just going to accept that. And what it did was it took, now this looks like a scary bit of code, but it took the heading that you're seeing on this slide here in my preview, the GitHub Copilot 2, it's kind of taking that and it's using a version of that. That's fine. I just, again, I'm finding it more distracting than anything. So let's go ahead, and what it should do is, after my final slide here, which we haven't gotten to yet, it should create that Palmer Penguins histogram that we asked for. And there it is. So yeah, sure enough, it's a histogram. It duplicated the heading that I had on the previous one, which again is not all that helpful. It's not terribly. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not all that helpful. So the script interface, don't love. The GitHub interface on GitHub itself is fine. Like, that's fine. And again, if you are someone who knows what they're doing with this, you may want to play around with the actual engine. Or the model, they call it models, I guess, or what is providing the answer. And supposedly people that do this a lot, those prompt engineers, they get different answers and different quality answers using different models. I'm certainly not at that point yet in terms of being able to tell any difference. Okay, so my slide deck now looks a little bit different than yours, but today, what we're going to do is we're going to access that chattr package capability, which, in addition to having the autocomplete that you saw a little bit there, we did a lot last week, we did a lot the previous week as well. Instead of the autocomplete within the script, or I'm sorry, in addition to that, what we should get is we should get an interactive back and forth type window, question and answer window type interface within RStudio itself. So I have a couple of links here, like always. The chattr link brings you to the package and kind of talks a little bit about what it is. Last week what we saw was trying to use their kind of default recommendations in terms of using chattr is we're running into an issue. So the workaround, I'll put the workaround in the chat here. But so what we would like to do, I'm going to go ahead and start a new project, because every time we do this on these weekly Tuesday sessions, I say I'm not going to do a project, and then I figure I want to do something like create a bibliography or put other stuff in the document that would benefit from having everything in one location and or knowing where that location is, which is what projects do. So I think we'll just do a new project. We'll put it on my desktop. That's fine. What should we call it? Let's call it chatting, and we'll call it chattr. Now, I think what let's give ourselves a document here. So let's actually create a Quarto document, and we'll make an HTML file. I think that's okay. You know, one of these times maybe we'll do something interactive and fun, like a shiny. Let's do that now. Let's do a shiny document. And it does have Old Faithful in here. That's funny. That's an old kind of example. It's an old example data set that I think it was primarily used within Shiny. So we'll call it Old Faithful. You can't say D though, right? It's got to be Old Faithful. No, it doesn't look right. We will say Old. Old Faithful. Sorry, Faithful. If we make you feel your age, I'm sorry. And let's see what we get out of that. Here's a shiny document, and you see that we can change the size of the histogram in terms of, I'm sorry, not the size, but the level of detail of the histogram in terms of the number of observations that we want to be within different categories. So we're doing that by binning. If I have one bin, everything's in one. If I have 3 bins, everything's in 3. So the bin is the number of bars. And that's a fairly kind of standard example of a Shiny app within R. Now, one of the things we could do is we could play with this, and let's say we would like to. So I'm commenting here. I'm going to provide a little context. Change data from faithful. Now, one of the things that we saw the first week that we tried doing this was we saw some suggestions that were being made that weren't based on information that we had loaded into our environment, but it was information that was being pulled from the internet. So I'm just gonna let it think and go through the suggestions here. Now, one of the things that's going to happen, I'm crying out loud, it's going to take a while. That's the output. Okay. So we're going to need, this is how we got distracted last week. So we're actually going to, need an input. We're going to need an input to match that. So let me do this. Let's make this as a separate chunk, and then we'll see if we can get, chattr to help us. So let's do that. So I'm going to put this in this chunk. I'm going to put an eval false on there right now, just so it doesn't screw up our document. Now, if we run this, it should still run, even though we're asking for some stuff below that isn't yet integrated. So yeah, still running. Okay. So let's leave it as is now and see if we can get chattr loaded and see if chattr we can interact with to help us create a different input to interact with the Palmer Penguins data. So the Palmer Penguins, the other thing about Shiny apps is they'll keep going as long as your session is going. So I just terminated that, so I'm not wasting so much processing power. What we want to do is we want to make sure chattr is installed, so we'll go ahead and ask for that package. I already did it, so it'll be on my computer. Chattr, so 2 T's, 1 R. I'll go ahead and install it again. And crying out loud, I don't want to do that. And we'll check on the version number here. Let's see, there is actually a way to just ask for the version number. So we could say package version with capital V, and then ask for chattr, and it should be 0.3. So 0.3 is the most recent one that's on CRAN. I don't think we need the dev version for this. Now, if we try to follow the recommendations are to do chattr use, and then ask for Copilot, and it's going to say this is depreciated after I load the library. So it's not acceptable. It may be depreciated, and this is kind of where we were stuck last week. And so the workaround that I found, and I'll put this in the chat here as well, is to use an options command. Now this is a command that you need to use each session that you have. Whoa, I just lost everything. Each session that you run, you're going to have to rerun this command, this options command, and don't try typing it yet. I'll put it in the chat in just a second. I just want to run it to make sure it actually works. There's an alternative here where you can also put this command in your own R user profile. It will load that each time. So if this is something you're going to use a lot, like reach out to me. I can help you so you don't have to do this every time. Now, in order to make sure that it's actually active, we can do a chattr test. And it's going slow. See if it's connecting. Let's make sure I have it enabled. Of course, it's not going to work now. It just worked. Like every time you try to do these online, it makes sense that this is going to happen. Let's refresh that. Looks like it's okay. Let's see what we got here on this command. Elmer chat GitHub, that should be okay. Using model chat OpenAI params. Okay, now that's not an error message that I got last time. I'm going to exit out of here and come back in fresh. Let's see if that might be an issue. Alicia, I'm not seeing anything in the chat except the slides. Yeah, Alicia, I didn't put it in because it didn't work for me the way that it's supposed to. So it could be, maybe I shouldn't have installed it, reinstalled it actually, because literally was just working. So I want to make sure it works on my machine before I share it. So let's see what goes on here. It could be a connection thing. And it could also be, let me see. So I think there is, I have to actually ask for it to be used. So the use option, let me see. I'm going to go back to my slides and see if the slides are helpful for the use option here. Of course, when I say it's going to be, a slower session, that means it'll be longer than it probably should be. Okay. This is a little different. I guess I didn't name it. chattr app is what I was looking for. So that's something that we didn't. So it did open up. I'm still, so maybe the test, I don't know. I don't like the fact that I've lost my prompt. So this looks to me like it is connected, but it also looks a little different. How do I get my prompt back? And we'll submit that. Let's see if it's working. Okay, so it's looking like when the app is open. Wow, I don't remember this happening, but it's looking like when the app is when the app itself is open, I'm losing my console, and maybe that makes sense. But I don't think that's ideal. I'm not sure I like that. Let me run my test here and make sure that we're actually connected. And I don't know why I've lost my autocomplete now here as well. There's all kinds of stuff going on wrong. Okay, so now it's working fine. I'm gonna go back into project and see if it works in the project. I don't know why it wouldn't work within the project. And maybe I'll put this in, instead of using the console, I'm gonna put this in a script. So it could be rerun if we wanted it to. And there you see some of the autocomplete. This is not helpful. Title, what? Check if a file, so this is Copilot kind of working now. I don't know what it's doing. I don't find that helpful at all. Again, just kind of more annoying, I think. So let's do the options and see if it gives me an chattr checksum. No. I'm gonna go slow here and see if it can autocomplete this for me. Now I gave it the function, so I don't want that. Part of the, I might have to disable it. Just I'm not liking it. There's my depreciation notice again. Now what we did was we ran the app, right? Where's the command for chattr app? Let's see if it comes up. Yep, there it is. Okay, so I'll put those in the chat. Alicia, here it comes. Anyone else that comes across this, if I can find so much stuff open. Hey Max, that's what I call entertainment. I know, not very exciting, Max. Sorry, but we're getting GitHub Copilot here and connected, and we didn't find it useful with the autocompletes. As a matter of fact, I find it incredibly annoying with the autocompletes. So we're seeing if it's any better using the app. And so the chattr app, if you want to try these, the chattr app does require you to first have Copilot enabled. And so Copilot enabling on RStudio is your global options through tools, and then look for the GitHub symbol. And then 2 weeks ago we walked through the steps necessary in order to get yourself connected when you first have the capability enabled via GitHub. So first get it via GitHub. The free version, if you have any sort of academic association, you should be able to get that free version. Alternatively, the entry level access, I think, is $10 a month. So it's certainly, I'm not a bank buster on that. So here's our app. And so what I guess what I don't like is I don't like that I've lost my console prompt, although if you're using script, it probably doesn't matter that much. Doggone it, you stupid autocomplete. I gotta turn this thing off. So I cannot have another week of these autocompletes. They're driving me nuts. Let, there is a way to slow this down. So on the global options, if I look at Copilot, I can actually set this milliseconds to a lot higher. So 1000 should be 1 second. I'm going to set it to, let's say, 3 seconds. And I've just done this bottom window here. There's also, you can ask for that. So for someone like me, grumpy old man, these options are something that might want to be played with. I think if I just let it sit for 3 seconds instead of 300ths of a second, it may be a little more tolerable. So Alicia, actually, if you try those, maybe let me know if, I don't know if you're on I'm guessing you're on a computer because you're watching this, but I guess it could be a phone. But if you're on if you're in R Studio, and I know you have access to Copilot, I'm curious to see if that works for you to get the chatbot. So let's actually create. We were gonna do maybe a Shiny app. So let's see if the chatbot can help us with the Shiny app. Again, I'm gonna run this. I'm gonna replace the old faithful, and we'll start from scratch. I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for this new world. I know I keep saying it, but why can't it just be 1996 like perpetually? I'd really be okay with that. X-Files on TV, Simpsons are still good. I mean, not that it's all TV, but good music. I don't know if I think I got to appreciate the music more. Yeah, you can uncheck the enable Copilot button. That's correct, Alicia. But then it'll probably then you won't be able to use the app either. Honestly, the number of seconds or milliseconds that you allow it to, that it's waiting for you to wait, is probably something that works for me. So I just hadn't played with it because I was only really mostly doing it to go over it on these weekly sessions. That's unfortunate. Yeah, so now that we've gone through and done these sessions, I'll probably try to customize it a bit more and see if I can get it to work for me. But let's actually go back to where's our app? What happened to our app? Is it in the viewer? I think the viewer might have taken it. The viewer took our app. No! So I'm going to stop it. And I'll have to reload the app. And again, I'm not sure this is the most efficient way of using it, but I'm using the help page, the chattr help page that's linked on this week's slides. And I'm just gonna, once I've loaded the model I want to use, I'm just gonna ask for chattr app, and I have my prompt back because I forced it. Now let's actually ask it here. Let's say let's see if it can read our environment actually. So I'm gonna run these chunks separately if it lets me. And it's not. The app being, let's see if we can actually just get data. Okay, so we have the faithful object in our environment now. And so one of the things I'm curious about, I lost it again. I'm curious if if the AI can read our environment a little bit. And so I'm going to ask it directly. It's telling me how to list it. Okay. So I'm not interested in, and most people I'm sure would be interested in the function. Yeah. AI. I know AI, I'm going to be nice because some point in time in the future, probably not too distant, you're going to take over and rule all of us, and I'm going to be your faithful slave at that point. But at this point, I don't like you. So let's take a look at our document again. And again, one of the things that's going to do is that's going to take over my viewer, so I lose my app. Now, sometimes these are kind of stacked on top of each other. I don't think that's going to be the case here. So I don't see any stacking there in the viewer. But let's go ahead and see if we can ask our interactive chatbot future overlord, like if we can change this. Let's just change the color, maybe. And again, it can't see our environment, so I'm not sure how helpful it's gonna be. Like I know how to change the color, but I want it to do it. So let's try one of the things that we tried first week that we tried this, and that was to ask specific questions. Yeah, Max, you're just sucking up to them so they don't kill you first, which is smart. I like your strategy. But so how to make a histogram of all the old faithful guys, how to make a interactive histogram of the old faithful guys or data where the bars are a pretty shade of winter of blue. And again, I changed the, doggone it. So it's supposed to give us an A when we do these cues. Now there was formatting specificity that we needed here. One of the things we saw when we first tried this was the first word in your question needs to be capitalized, which was really odd. Now there are other little tweaks too, so I'm gonna take a look at that again. GitHub Copilot, and we'll see if we can. I think it was in the RStudio help page that we saw that was actually suggesting you use the hashtag Q kind of format. So this looks right. I'm gonna see if I can find kind of what we tried to do back and forth. Hashtag space Q colon space. And again, you just kind of leave the cursor underneath waiting for Max and my new overlords to give an answer. Now it's supposed to give an answer in the form of a hashtag A, and it's not. I'm gonna copy this and see if it gives an answer here. And maybe I'll have to change it back from 3 seconds because no, it's still, doggone it. I do not like you, green eggs and AI. I really do not. So let's load our Shiny app again and see if that can help us. See, this is the autocomplete that I'm talking about that kind of just pisses me off. It just kind of shows up and I'm like, no, I don't want you. Go away. The other thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to, in our file here, I'm going to have to give myself a note that says this function. I keep forgetting this function, the chattr_app. That's the, I'm going to get it going here. So I'm going to comment it out, but I'm just going to put it here to let myself know that that's what I need to start the app. And again, if I had more tolerance for, oh, look at that. So it actually does load up what the previous question and answers were within this session. That's kind of nice. I kind of like that. But if I had more tolerance for this, we probably would try to optimize this as well and see if we could get this kind of be a little more user friendly in terms of the back and forths and losing it when we do something like when we produce something. And of course, if we are using R as an authoring platform, we're constantly trying to produce something. We're trying to produce, in this case, a Shiny app, which makes sense that you can only have one app going at one time. So because this is an app, it makes sense that it gets rid of it. So let's actually change our app. I'm going to change this just into a regular HTML file. We'll ask it if it can provide code that creates, let's do a Plotly object because those are fun. That's a little interactive. A Plotly graph let's use empty cars data. That doesn't get any love anymore. And I'm getting a little bit of kind of overwriting with the app in terms, I haven't popped it out yet, so let's pop it out and see if what I'm looking at is this little gear icon here. And now of course I've lost my carefully crafted prompt. There it is. So let's see what it does. Now, supposedly there is in chattr, and chattr, the authors of it, some of the authors include Posit people. So the people who provide this IDE are also working on this app. So we can either copy it to the clipboard, which is normal, but they also have, go ahead and put it in the document. So that should create a code chunk for us. Let's try that. It's funny, it appended it to another code chunk and it didn't give me my curly brackets. That's okay. It is weird that it is a little weird that it gave it kind of chunk-like stuff, but not a full chunk. So the other thing it did was it got rid of my app again. So a doggone app, we're gonna have to keep coming back to it. I'm gonna get rid of the Shiny stuff and we'll just try an HTML document with this suggested GG Plotly object. There it is. So it's fine. Now the tweaking is the part that I'm really the tweaking is the part that I'm not all that happy with, or all that. I got rid of my command. Kulas, what are you doing? So what was it? What was our app? I can't ask it because doesn't seem to want to stay open. Doesn't want to stay open for business. So we got to try running that function again to get our command back. It's still there. It's there somewhere. We just got to find it. Let's see if it can change. What do we want it to change? Can you provide code? Can you provide amendments that? What do we want to do? Now, one of the unfortunate things here is I can't easily get feedback on this document itself within the preview panel, I can go, it's a project folder, so I can go within the project folder and find the file itself. And that's helpful. But I would like to see this in order to kind of amend what I want to ask it to do. And so one of the things I think we can ask it to do is maybe change the colors for cylinders, and maybe also, let's say also tag them with shapes in addition to colors. So I'm going to say, can you provide amendments to the previous code that also identifies that identifies cylinders. How the heck do you spell cylinders? Cylinder, that is right. It doesn't look right. Cylinders by shape as well as color. And we'll use the English version of color that Hadley Wickham, I think, he thinks is funny to put in some of the ggplot specifications. So, Alicia, I'm curious, did you any luck, or do we need to tweak that code at all? Okay, I'm gonna copy. I copied it and it went away. Let's see if it copied though. Okay, it looks like it did copy. We do have a shape now as well. So on line 28, it's saying shape it by cylinders as well as color it by cylinders. And if this works, you know, I tolerate this a little more than the autocomplete, I guess, but I'm still not. I'm not blown away in terms of can't multi. I gotcha. No problem, Alicia. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that. I was just curious. I don't see this being available within your working session environment is not that much of a time saver than just having a window open right here and saying, me going to GitHub and saying, all right, I want to use Copilot. And Copilot is also kind of keeping track of everything I've done. And I'll say, let's see if it gives me the same code. I would like an interactive, what would you say? I would like a Plotly graph of empty cars data with cylinders code. No, let's say with two grouping variables. Now, I don't remember the empty cars data set well enough to actually identify if there's more than one. So can we have more than one grouping? Let's see. Yeah, let's do, let's see if I can categorize. Let's see if it can do low and high miles per gallon as well as cylinders. All right, let's see how good this thing is here. We'll say one of the grouping variables is cylinders. That's easy. And two, MPG trichotomized. Trichotomized into low, medium, and high MPG. The distributed, or what should we call it, the y-axis variable, or the we'll just let it go actually, so we'll see what it does. So number of cylinders, it's using dplyr to actually, it's using the mutate function in order to take That's kind of interesting. It's taking normative data, so it's not reading in what the range of values is on MPG. It's saying give me quantiles. So I'll have it in thirds, so it'll be the bottom third, middle third, and top third. That's kind of, I like that. That's interesting. Okay, then we'll copy that. Let's put it in. Let's see if we like that better. So put that in as a separate code chunk. And we'll echo the code to give the AI proper credit. See if it actually works here. It's doing a lot more work on that, it looks like. The other thing we could ask it to do is to make the code more efficient. Here's our shapes and colors, and here is trichotomized. And so it gave us, we have 3 types of cylinders, we have 3 categories, so it should give us more than, so it only gave us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 grouping variables where there should be 9, right? 3 by, well, it depends. So not every 4, 6, and 8 cylinder is going to be it's going to have the full range of low, medium, and high miles per gallon. So I guess that makes sense. So we don't have the full range. We do have in the medium case, the medium miles per gallon case is the only one that has all 3 cylinder types, 4, 6, and 8. The low miles per gallon are all 8 cylinders, and the high miles per gallon are all 4 cylinders. So I guess let that be a lesson to all of you non-electric car drivers out there. I'm one of those, which my car is kind of currently just a paperweight right now, so I shouldn't brag too much, but I guess if you want high mileage, you get a 4-cylinder. That graph demonstrates that. Okay, I am putting AI and Copilot to bed for a little while in terms of me. So I'm definitely, I'm not the target audience for this. I've played with it, and I'll keep it on, and I'll give some feedback in a month or so after I customize it to fit me a little more and see if maybe I've changed my tune on it. Next week, I think Diego is probably going to take a stab at this because he's a little more open-minded with this and excited about it. And then we'll jump back into more normal, just trying to create a document, not worried about our AI overlords helping us or trying to appease them. Okay, so I think that's it. Thanks, everybody. If you have any questions or want to know how to do something again, just drop me a note, and we could try to cover it on one of these week's sessions. All right, good night.